Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So we got a real good one this weekend, one I'm looking forward to for many different reasons, and that's Shakur Stevenson versus Jamel Herring for Jamel Herring's belt. Now, first things first, we got to give Jamel Herring a lot of credit for even taking this fight, because Shakur Stevenson, he's looked at as pretty much the next Floyd Mayweather. I mean, in terms of skill, defense, perfection, and confidence, Shakur Stevenson seems to be the closest to Floyd Mayweather. And coincidentally, for some of you guys that don't know this, just like Shakur Stevenson, when Floyd Mayweather was in his natural weight class, he was the boogeyman. He was the boogeyman in his division. Floyd was just like Shakur and Devin Haney today, calling out all of the undefeated fighters, and none of them wanted to fight him. So credit to Jamel Herring for not pulling a Canelo or a Lomachenko and vacating his belt to avoid this tough mandatory challenge. With that being said, this is still a very competitive matchup. You know, with Jamel, he has the height, he has a lot of experience in the ring. He just came off of a big win over Carl Frampton, which is giving him momentum. He's now working with Bo Mack, Terrence Crawford's trainer, so he's a lot more confident than he was before. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be enough. I think Jamel is good enough to possibly test Shakur in this fight, but I can't see him beating Shakur Stevenson. Jamel is definitely going to come to win. He's going to put up a good fight, but I think we may see Shakur Stevenson's best performance. Now, the reason why this fight was so important to happen is if Shakur beats Herring, which I believe he will, it kind of forces Oscar Valdez to take the Shakur Stevenson fight. Because Oscar Valdez, who is pulling the same stuff that Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, and Jojo Diaz have been pulling when it comes to avoiding Devin Haney, Oscar's doing the same thing when it comes to Shakur Stevenson. Oscar has been avoiding Shakur Stevenson for about a little over 2 years now, 2 weight classes. When Shakur and Oscar were at 126, Shakur was Oscar's mandatory. And instead of Oscar Valdez taking the biggest payday and the biggest fight of his career, he decides to vacate his belt and basically surrender it to Shakur Stevenson and move up in weight. Now, once again, Shakur Stevenson is chasing Oscar Valdez at a higher weight class at 130. And if he beats Herring, Oscar Valdez will have no excuse to not take the fight, because Oscar Valdez was trying to get the Jamel Herring fight. But Shakur just got him first. So that will pretty much force Oscar Valdez to take that fight next. Now, guys, something that I thought was pretty interesting, I was watching the build-up to this fight. ESPN, they have a series, they call it Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So I'm watching this series, and it's a pretty good series. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they revisit Shakur Stevenson's last fight against the African guy that he fought, and they start talking about how it was a boring fight. And they got Shakur Stevenson over here apologizing because of something that this guy, Mark, I forget his last name, but the guy who works for ESPN, he was the first person to start calling Shakur Stevenson boring. He says something like, if you fight like this, don't go wondering why people are calling you boring, right? But see, this is what Shakur Stevenson should have said in this piece, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. When they asked him about that performance, he should have said, you know what's so crazy? We need to stop acting like we don't see the double standards. How come none of you guys ever called Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez boring? How come you guys didn't blame that on Lomachenko, since Lomachenko went almost the whole fight not really throwing too many punches? I mean, even though he let his hands go in the second half, he still wasn't that active. Man, you know what I did when I was watching this series? After I seen them calling him boring and all that stuff, I finished watching that episode, and then I start watching the Lomachenko-Teofimo Lopez fight, right? I watched the first like 6 or 7 rounds, and then I stopped it right there, and then I switched over to the Shakur Stevenson fight against the African guy, right? Now, also keep in mind, Shakur Stevenson, he was also explaining, he said that guy that I fought, he was the hardest puncher I had ever faced. So in other words, he's explaining he had to be very, very careful with this guy. But do you guys know, even with Shakur Stevenson being careful, he was 2 to 3 times more aggressive in the fight than Lomachenko was? It's so crazy how easy it is for these people to brainwash you by saying something on a microphone. I always tell you, a microphone and a camera is one of the most powerful weapons in the world, and this is one of the reasons. One of these commentators can go out there and just start calling Shakur boring, and it's easy to brainwash people, or it's just easy to kind of get people to follow your lead, because that's exactly what Tim Bradley did during this broadcast. The whole fight, Tim Bradley, he was praising Shakur Stevenson's performance, talking about how good he was doing. As soon as Mark said something about him being boring, all of a sudden Tim Bradley went out of his way the whole night from that point on, just constantly saying it over and over. Oh, this is so boring. I'm falling asleep, etc., etc. Now, Andre Ward didn't do that, though. Andre, he never played follow the leader. In fact, he was like, hey, look, man, I never said nothing about him being boring. I'm just saying that he could do a little bit more. That's what he said, right? But guys, once again, if you compare his performance, I'm telling you guys, go back and watch these two fights. Do you know if you watch that Loma fight and then turn around and watch the Shakur fight, it looked like Shakur was damn near Mike Tyson if you compare the two. While Lomachenko didn't do anything and he allowed Teofimo to lead, Shakur Stevenson was the one doing all the leading when he was in the ring with the hardest puncher he had ever faced before. So when it comes to these racial double standards, Shakur Stevenson, he's already been talking about the racism and how he's been treated, how they're protecting Oscar Valdez, etc. But he also needs to point this out as well. These double standards, if you're going to call me boring, why don't you guys call Lomachenko boring? And the reason why they're not going to do it is because it was a code word in the first place. We know what time it is already, right? But that's why I'm telling you boxers right now, you boxers don't know how powerful you are when you get that microphone and you're talking to these reporters. I'm telling you right now, once you start pointing out these double standards, these racists will start feeling so uncomfortable because that's their biggest fear. Their biggest fear is that someone that they interview calls them biased, calls them racist. You don't even have to call them racist. All you have to do is point out the racial double standards and everything will already be understood. All you have to do is say, that's pretty strange. None of you guys said this when Lomachenko was boxing. Once you say that, that's when they're going to be like, oh man, they done found us out. We're going to have to fall back now. I can guarantee you, once fighters and even people like Andre Ward, once they start pointing out these double standards, these racists are going to be scared to death of being extremely biased. Once again, you know, these boxers, they have spoiled these reporters because the reporters now feel nobody's going to ever pay attention to us. They're not paying attention to the things we're saying. These boxers are only paying attention to what their opponent is saying. So while they're over here just listening to nothing but their opponents talking, we could say all the biased stuff we want because we fly under the radar. But as soon as you guys start putting them in those crosshairs and you start exposing them for who they are, I'm going to tell you, you guys are going to change the sport overnight because these reporters' biggest fears is to have someone expose them as being the racist that they are. Being said, once again, I look forward to this fight. It'll be a real interesting one. There's a lot on the line right here because this could lead to much, much bigger fights. And once again, it's going to put Shakur Stevenson in a position to where it'll be easier to get these guys in the ring because it will be hard to justify not fighting him once he gets this big win. Let's see how it plays out this Saturday. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, You train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the big day. SMPs at ScalpCarolinas. I need a real restoration. This is my makeover right here.
Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man ScalpCarolinas on Instagram. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Deki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodeki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.